Hello, friends. I was just sitting here with my chocolate hummus and strawberries, just ruminating as I was watching videos. Spiritual teachers who were so right about so many things, and yet I see so many common threads with spiritual teachers these days. Pardon my dog. There's a lot of fear-based mentality. It becomes a religion of sort. Because whether it's Christianity or Islam, I mean, really, almost all of the religions are based on this fear and control. If you take out both of those, you don't have the religion anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of the spiritual teachers, even in a sort of new agey setting, yogis, they have the same mentality. They just kind of sugarcoat it a little. You can hear it in some of the ways they deal with, well, you have to put this bubble of protection, white light around you when you go into public places like Walmart. Oh no, crazy people out there. Well, I mean, there are, but they're all having their own experience, and good grief, don't judge. Well, like attracts like. So if you are going to be fearful and worried, and maybe have a gun on your hip and just all defensive, well, then you're going to find things to be defensive about, because they're going to come to you. I mean, think about a person walking down the road looking like they're just looking for trouble. They got this vicious dog on their hip, and they've got a gun, and they just have this strut about them. I mean, you know that people are going to start, picking up on that vibe, and, oh, that guy needs to be taken down a notch or whatever. And that's the guy that's going to be attacked. Now, if a person's just kind of minding their own business, looking like they have a place to go, and just, walking like a friendly person, they're not as likely to be attacked. That's the middle ground. That's the good, healthy ground. Versus the person who's walking down the road looking depressed, looking like he's a victim. He's just, oh, woe is me. Well, that person's going to be picked off as a weak person. It happens in all of nature. Why wouldn't it happen with humans? So you've got these extremes, and frankly, they're both kind of based in fear and lack mentality. And then there's just, I'm doing my own thing. I'm minding my own business. I'm confident. I'm driven. I'm doing what I want to do because I am powerful. That mentality, nobody's going to mess with you. So as I see people talking about how you need to, even astro travel, you're supposed to astro travel with faith and confidence. Some people would say, okay, that's great. But as soon as you have any fear, you're going to bounce back into your body. Or if your fear is of a different sort, you're going to end up dealing with all sorts of dark entities once you start getting there. And then people are like, oh, you don't want to astral travel because that's getting into the demonic realm. Well, not if you're not opening yourself up to that with your fear. I mean, the whole light versus darkness debate and mentality of we need to have this spiritual warfare, the war is in our mind. We're creating this. And if you are believing that you have to protect yourself against all this darkness and entities and demons and blah, 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 you're creating that. And then you will have to protect yourself against it. It's a vicious cycle. So the best thing to do is make yourself immune to it by, You could totally like just spiritually bypass and deny that it exists. I wouldn't suggest that. It does exist, but it exists in your mind because you create that entity. You create that darkness. It feeds off of your fear. Anytime you have to deal with some sort of control mechanism, oh, I got to do this, or oh, in this environment, it'll just do. Oh. You're creating that problem, that entity, that darkness, that whatever. Nobody's out to get you. You are all powerful. You are manifesting what you want in your life. So, yes, it's not a bad idea to, eat the best foods and do all this stuff to create the reality that you want to see in your physical form. Sure, that's great and fine. But if you're doing something completely innocently, naively, it's not a sin to you. If there's something out there that others are doing, they're not doing it to you. You are having this experience, and you are simply allowing things into your life, either knowingly or unknowingly. But the more you think that you are the victim, instead of actually allowing things into your life, because that's ultimately your best plan for your life that you have already chosen beforehand. Well, if you think that you are the victim, you will become the victim. If you believe you are all powerful and you can control your reality in this matrix, well, then you don't have to worry about all that stuff. I mean, okay, sure, maybe the elite do have some power you don't have. It's not that they're out to get you. You don't know their intentions. They don't care about the individual. You can go about your jolly little life, and they're probably never going to know about you or care. Just live happily. Just have a good life. Nobody's trying to bring you down. They're living their life too. The more we live as if we think that we are the center of everyone's universe versus just our own, it's one, quite delusional, two, narcissistic, and three, it ends up being fear-based, because then we worry about what everybody else thinks or what they're going to do to us. They can't. Our plan was set before we ever got here. We can't even die if we're not supposed to die. And this has happened all the time when people have near-death experiences. They go up there and somebody says it's not your time yet. And they're like, no, I really love this place. This is all so wonderful. Sorry, you got things to do. And then they come back. That's the only time when we're kind of powerless, but we're not really, because we're the ones that made that plan from the get-go. And we're not even going to allow ourselves to change that plan. It's all predestined. So, that being the case, and it is the case, trust me, both with a lot of people that have gone through near-death experiences, spiritual people all agreeing on it, well, truly spiritual people. You see, here's the thing. I have a cheat. I can see when people are lying and their throat chakras are going backwards. I can see it when people are unspiritual and saying things that are just not based in faith. There's just a lot of things I've come to lately that I realized I've intuitively always known or felt. Like if somebody's saying something that's fear-based, I know it's not true. Even if it's like mostly true, there's something about it that just kind of feels icky, right? You just know that's just not right. And I just hate it when people live in this, oh, we got to be afraid of everything around us, and they just push out all this stuff that it's like, okay, it's true-ish, but the more you put it out there, the more all you're doing is bringing down the vibration of the world. People come to these things by themselves if they're in a good place. You forcing that information on them when they're not ready, I don't think it does anything to bring the world up. Otherwise, I would get back into that. I did for a while, and it just got me so. You know, I have a friend who does that, and it's just like something about it just irks me. I mean, yeah, you should be, trying to have as good food as you can with these, sprays not on them. But you'd think, like, you can't buy anything. You can't do anything. You can't go anywhere if you listen to this person. Because, I mean, the world's out to get you. Everything is horrible. You just have no freedom whatsoever. And not shockingly, this person's also extremely unhealthy. She's created this reality around her. Her body has become incredibly unhealthy. And she's aged a lot. Because she lives in fear. It's like starting a dark entity in your body instead of light. Do you want to bring light into the world or darkness? Too much knowledge just gets you, honestly, having a overactive third eye. And it's good to be living in a fantasy world, in a delusional world, if you are meditating, for instance, looking into a fire, for instance, maybe. But if you're living that way, and you're not specifically envisioning something really good, there can be problems with that mentality, especially if that is mixed with overactive root chakra, all about fear and anger and just nothing good. And you mix that then with a heart chakra that's closed, you're gonna not love the world. And you mix that with a solar plexus that's closed and you don't feel powerful. I mean, you're just shutting down half of your chakras, at least, with just thoughts of being afraid. Religion does that, by the way. Religion is classically going to do that. It's a fear and control mentality, or it wouldn't exist. And that's why so few people that are religious are actually spiritual these days. Because they live in this lack mentality and fear. They may not consciously be aware of it because they so were raised in it. And I understand that. Good grief. I spent 5 years in a Mennonite cult. They believed they were the one true church, and if you did anything to stand out from the crowd, I mean, even if it's being more conservative, wearing blacker, thicker tights as a woman, you were in danger of being kicked out of the one true church. And if you were kicked out, well, you didn't go to heaven. You know, that whole, we have to make sure that you're in a good place. Nobody can make sure that you're in a good place but you. Nobody. And they can't see it in outward behaviors. They can feel it energetically if they're good. Some people can see it in the aura, but the vast majority of people have no idea. And they're just putting themselves out there in a way that society would say, okay, this person's okay. But some of the most evil people with the most shut down chakras, you'd say outwardly, oh, they're doing pretty good. No, they got money, they got a stable family. You know, they're going to church. They talk well. But they're not happy. They're not being actually truthful. People don't feel good around them. They don't feel a high vibe. They don't have close friends. They just do it for show. So, interestingly enough, the more intelligent you are, the less friends you're going to have. And similar things could go for the more spiritual you are. Even though everybody loves you and may even respect you, they can't handle you, and they feel bad around you because you trigger them. And so they'll pull away because they feel insufficient. I've seen this all down through history. Jesus is a perfect example. Whether he existed or not is immaterial. That story shows that the religious leaders hated him. And being so loved by all the women that surrounded him, no doubt he couldn't pick just one, or that would end up making her insecure with all the rest that loved him. So history would say he didn't get married. Did he not have children? Did he not get married? That's a whole nother story. Did he have lots of children? Did he get married to all of them? Was he polyamorous? Who knows? He probably didn't even exist. But spiritual teachers down through history have been very attractive to the opposite sex, while at the same time not being able to be around any of them. And thus they usually are single. Teal Swan is another interesting example of that, modern day example of that. Beautiful, gorgeous. You'd think there's no way she would not be with a man. In my personal opinion, she's probably polyamorous, but she does not talk about it. But no, she has a community around her, but she doesn't have a man. I don't think any spiritual person would have one person, because there's that inevitable attraction that would trigger any person that is with them. So, should people that are spiritual just be single? I'm not necessarily saying that, but there is a strong correlation with people that are spiritual ending up single. And that's what makes them in a bad situation more often than not, because people help people. Couples are much more successful than single people, particularly women. So people ask me all the time, why am I single? It's not that I particularly want to be, but I will not give up my freedom. I will not give up my dreams. I will not put myself in a small little box to cater to some insecurity. So that's why I stay in a situation that is honestly not very great. I have visions. I know what the future will hold, and I am not going to go in a different path. So I suspect a lot of spiritual people feel the same. And that's why they stay hermits. And it's so sad because so many of the spiritual people I know don't have a platform even for speaking their truth, for telling their experience. Some of the highest vibration people that I can read, not only don't they have some way to speak it, but it shows up in their health. Bad teeth, I believe, is all about you want to speak more, you have truth to speak, and you cannot get it out there. You're not a public speaker, or you just aren't in a position to do it. Perhaps because you don't have the confidence. I've seen that so often. I talk to numerous dentists about it, and they can't figure out why some people seem to have bad teeth and other people have great teeth, and they're doing the same thing. First they thought, oh, maybe it's diet. Not really. Correlation versus causation. Maybe it's habits. No. There's thoughts of it being a lot of different things, but there are contradictions for all of them. It comes down to spiritual stuff and thoughts. Each tooth is said to even have a thought behind it. But anything to do with the mouth comes from the throat chakra. That is what I have understood. But it's kind of halfway between that and your perspective with your third eye. So I gather, and this is just from personal experience with a lot of spiritual people, psychics and all that, they can't or they don't want to tell people what they know. And because of that, they end up toothless or nigh unto it. And of course, nobody wants to hear them talk when they have this nasty mouth. So I know I've helped at least one of them get their teeth back, and then they could smile again, and then they would actually want to talk. But a lot of them, no, they just don't have the self-worth to fix their teeth in the first place. And teeth are so important. So, yeah, I don't know. Just had some random thoughts this morning. Thought I'd share. Talk to y'all later. Bye.